There was a time when food security didn't come from convenience, it came from preparation. During World War II, families understood that access to food could change overnight. Rationing systems limited what could be bought, supply chains were unpredictable, and shortages were, well, pretty common. In response, households didn't wait for problems to arrive. They built their own safety net by stockpiling foods that could last, stretch, and sustain them through uncertain periods. These weren't random items thrown onto shelves. They were carefully chosen staples, selected for their shelf life, nutritional value, and versatility. What's worth paying attention to today is how deliberate those choices were. These foods weren't just about surviving the moment, they were about maintaining stability over time. And as modern systems become more complex and, occasionally fragile, the logic behind those stockpiles is starting to make sense again. They relied on shelf-stable staples that could last for months or years. At the core of every World War II household stockpile were foods that didn't spoil quickly. Items like dried beans, rice, oats and flour formed the backbone of daily meals. These staples were chosen because they could sit for long periods without refrigeration and still provide reliable nutrition. They were also flexible, allowing families to create a wide range of meals from a limited set of ingredients. If you want to apply this today, start by building a small reserve of dry goods. Store them in airtight containers and rotate them regularly to keep them fresh. They prioritized foods that delivered high energy and nutrition. Calories mattered. With limited access to fresh food, families needed items that could provide sustained energy. Foods like grains, legumes and preserved fats became essential. These weren't luxury items, they were functional. A simple combination of beans and grains could provide a complete protein source, supporting health even during shortages. You can apply this by focusing on nutrient-dense foods rather than convenience items. Think in terms of what will sustain you, not just what tastes good. They preserved food to extend its usefulness far beyond harvest. Fresh food was valuable, but it didn't last. To solve this, families relied heavily on preservation methods like drying, canning and fermenting. Vegetables were canned or pickled. Fruits were dried. Meat was preserved using salt or other methods. This allowed households to build a zapas of food that could be used long after the growing season ended. Learning basic preservation techniques today can give you the same advantage. It's a way to turn short-term abundance into long-term security. They stocked foods that could be stretched into multiple meals. Efficiency was critical, Foods were chosen not just for what they were, but for how far they could go. A single ingredient needed to work in multiple dishes. For example, a bag of flour could become bread, thickener for soups, or a base for simple meals. Beans could be used in stews, mashed into spreads, or combined with grains. You can apply this by choosing versatile ingredients. The more ways you can use a single item, the more valuable it becomes in your stockpile. They included preserved proteins to maintain balance in their diet. Protein was harder to store, but it was essential. Canned meats, dried legumes, and preserved fish were common additions to stockpiles. These provided the necessary nutrients to maintain strength and health. Without them, diets would have been incomplete. You can build this into your own system by including shelf-stable protein sources. Balance is just as important as quantity. They managed their stockpiles with discipline and routine. Stockpiling wasn't a one-time effort. It required ongoing management. Foods were rotated, used and replaced to ensure nothing went to waste. This system kept supplies fresh and ready for use. It also prevented the build-up of unusable or expired items. You can adopt this by creating a simple rotation system. Use what you store and replace it regularly. They adapted their cooking to match what was available. Recipes weren't fixed. They changed based on what was in the pantry. This flexibility allowed families to make the most of their stockpiles. If one ingredient wasn't available, it was replaced with something else. This kept meals consistent even when supplies varied. You can develop this skill by understanding the role of each ingredient. Once you know what it does, you can substitute it more easily. They valued simplicity over variety when it came to survival. Variety was limited, but it wasn't the priority. The focus was on consistency and reliability. Meals were simple but effective. This reduced complexity and made it easier to manage resources. It also ensured that food preparation remained practical under pressure. You can apply this by simplifying your approach. Focus on a core set of ingredients that you know how to use well. They built stockpiles gradually rather than all at once. Most families didn't have the ability to stockpile large amounts immediately. Instead, they built their reserves over time. Small additions were made regularly, creating a stable supply without overwhelming resources. This approach made stockpiling accessible to more people. You can follow this method by adding a few items to your storage each time you shop. Over time, it builds into something substantial. These stockpiled foods provided stability when systems became unreliable. What these households achieved wasn't just survival, it was control. By maintaining their own food reserves, they reduced their dependence on external systems. This allowed them to navigate shortages with less stress and uncertainty. It gave them options when others had none. The real lesson is that preparation creates resilience. The foods our grandparents stockpiled weren't chosen by accident. They were selected based on experience, necessity, and a clear understanding of what works. Those same principles apply today. Building a reliable food supply doesn't require extreme measures. It requires consistency, planning, and a focus on what truly matters. If you found this useful, subscribe for more deep dives into World War II survival strategies and practical knowledge that still holds value today. Share this with someone who understands that real security starts with being prepared.